This tutorial is to show you how to use the grid scale drawing method. You need your paper, your image that you're drawing from, a ruler and a pencil. And you're going to start by pouring a very faint grid over your white paper. We're not measuring, as you can see, we're just using the width of the ruler. Relining it up with the last line that you've drawn. Very faintly so you can get rid of it after you finish your drawing. And again, we're working left to right, top to bottom. If you're left-handed, you might want to work it the other way around. Then you're going to replicate that grid over your photograph, but you might want to switch to pen so you can see it clearer. You might have noticed there, which is a real key point, you don't start your ruler at the edge of the picture, you start it at the edge of the paper, because you want your grid to be identical on both pieces of paper. Left to right, top to bottom. There won't quite be one whole ruler width at the bottom and at the right hand side, but as long as you've got that funny space on both pieces of paper, your grids are identical. As you can see here, the next step is to number your boxes. Nice little tip for you. If you've got 6 boxes, put your 6 times table down the side. If you've got 5 boxes, you put your 5 times table down the side. This just identifies an error quickly by the time you get to the end of each row. Okay, so once you've done that, you can start drawing. The best place to start, now you've set yourself up with your grid, is to work box by box, outlining your image. In this case, it's a skull. So along each little line you can see, I'm just marking where I'll eventually join up. So every box number, I keep referring to the image and I'm just marking everywhere where the image hits one of those lines, and that's going to be my starting point. Then what you can do is start marking up, joining up those marks that you've made. Now this isn't as easy as it looks. You do need to keep an eye on your negative space. Your negative space is the image, is the space within each box that hasn't got drawing in it. Because you know if that space is wrong, then your drawing is wrong. But again, work box by box, one at a time. Constantly checking your negative space and where the image touches those lines. Once you've got your outline, using exactly the same principle, you can see I've started with the right eye socket there. You're looking where that eye socket touches those boxes along those lines and then joining them up. I've obviously sped this video up, I don't draw at this pace. It's all about keep checking that photograph and your negative space. Whenever I ask students to draw teeth in an image, they always start by drawing the individual tooth. What you can see I've done there instead is just draw the line on which the teeth sit at the top and the bottom, and then I can go back in because I know how to space them and where to space them. I can go back in later and fill them in, which is what you can see I'm doing now. Keep checking the photograph, can't stress that enough. For example, you might see that those far right hand side teeth in that box, there's only 3 in that box, so I know how to space them. There's 3 in the next one that move down into the box underneath. I'm constantly checking the spacing and matching them up to the boxes. You'll notice I've put finer details into the skull as well. I've even added lines to indicate where to put my variations of shade. So it's outlining the shade as well as the detail. It all helps me when I come to add that shade in later. So when you've got your outline and your features and all your finer details, it's time to think about shading. A nice activity to start with, which is what I always ask my students to do, is with a 4B or 6B pencil, do a gradient on a separate piece of paper, showing yourself how many different tones you can get or create with that pencil. from really dark to really light. When you think you've got your darkest, press even harder at the top, and when you think you've got your lightest, use your finger to smooth down at the bottom, which is what you can see I'm doing there. And the reason I ask you to do this is when you put those shades next to your photograph, which you see I do in a minute, you can indicate to yourself where those shades need to be added on your drawing. Like so. The darkest is going to go around those eyes and nose, mid shades in that skull, and lighter tones in those highlighted areas. What you'll also notice is that nowhere on that page, apart from the border, is pure white. So that's it for the tutorial. Have a go yourself.